Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sustainapreneur Podcast, episode 22. Today, we're talking to Shelly Mitchell, owner of Oreo's Refining. They're an electronic waste recycling company who is making ethical processing their business. The recycling industry has a deep, dark secret, and we want to tell you about it. This promises to be good, so stick around.
Welcome back to another episode of Sustainapreneur Podcast, where we are bridging the gap between business and sustainability. We want to educate and motivate sustainapreneurs by discussing important topics, debating different perspectives, and by showcasing those of you out there who are doing it right now. I'm your host, Nate Hansen, and we're glad to have you with us. So let's get started.
We're here with Shelly Mitchell, owner and operator of Oreo's Refining. She is a local Missoula, Montana-based company who does e-waste recycling. And she's actually a regular listener to the podcast, and she heard some of the stuff that I put out about e-waste. And she's heard a lot of the other podcasts, and she has a whole lot to say, and that's what I wanted. I wanted people to get sparked up and to spark a debate, and that's what she's here to do, and to talk about her aspects and her perspective on e-waste and what it's doing and what she's trying to combat in the world. Isn't that right?
Yes, thank you, Nathan. You know, there's a lot of misconceptions about e-waste and what people think happens to it, and when I heard one of your podcasts on it, yeah, I was like, I don't know, remember if I was emailing or texting you. I'm like, oh, hell no. No. So I'm very happy to actually to be on and to hopefully set the record straight on actually what's really happening in our country and around the world and what's happening in our community where we live.
All right, so after listening to those podcasts, what was the thing that stood out the most that you didn't agree with from the e-waste podcast?
I think the bigger issues that I had was some of the comments about Bill Gates and Microsoft and, you know, them giving back to the community, but, you know, would he have known what was going to happen to our environment and to our planet because of computers and software?
Yeah, or would he have still done what he did if he'd have known that he'd have created this huge problem in e-waste all across the world? Yeah.
And I believe that what is that saying? The means don't justify the end.
Do the ends justify the means? So yeah, you can take it two ways. It does or it doesn't.
Yeah. And I don't think it does.
No. Not either.
I don't think and it's not just him, it would have been somebody else. Mm-hmm. And the whole issue of e-waste is that we have made these things that are highly toxic, and we had absolutely no plan for them when they died.
This is something that a lot of people don't know about. A lot of people just think, you know, there's a kiosk at my local whatever store, and that's where I throw my phone. How come you're not just one of those people? What sparked you? What all of a sudden got you interested in what we're doing?
Well, it was actually about 12 years ago. I was a street social worker in Spokane, Washington, and one of my colleagues told me I should get this book by Derek Jenkins, who is called The Culture of Make-Believe. So I bought it, and I was reading it, and it was a really hard book to read. It was very emotional. There was a lot of really heavy info in there, and there was this one spot that talked about, do you ever think about that woman in Thailand who's made my laptop and her dying of cancer? And for some reason, that just always stuck in my head. But there was something told me not to research it.
Told you not to research it?
Not to research it. I don't know if I could have handled it at that time, but it always was in the back of my mind for the last 12 years. And finally, I decided, I don't know, about 6 years ago to actually type it in a Google search. And what I saw was horrific.
it was a broad search, and it came up with all the devastation that's going on overseas,
Yeah.
and the toxicity of e-waste.
Yeah. And at that point, I there became responsible. And I think that's why I didn't research it. When I saw it, I'm like, what does this mean? My laptop? I mean, I never even thought that my laptop, my computer, my phone
Yeah.
was toxic waste.
Hmm.
Never occurred to me. But there was a part of me that was like, if I research this, I'm going to be responsible because now I'm going to know.
Knowledge is power, but
Yep.
knowledge also is responsibility.
Yeah. So when I finally did that, it was like, oh, no. This is wrong. This is so wrong. And so, I don't think it was that long after I started to go back to school in the Bitterroot, and it kind of just went from there. I focused my research on refining precious metals out of the e-waste, trying to find a more environmentally safe way to do that. Some people said, well, why don't you start a business? And I'm like, no, didn't want to do that. And then it kind of just started to happen.
What was the first hesitation to starting a business? Did you think that, this isn't sustainability, this isn't going to make any money?
Oh, I knew it was going to make some money.
Okay.
Well, I knew it was going to make some money in the refining process. But there were so many laws I would have to jump through and regulations, and so I was like, nah, I don't think I want to do this. But then as things started to progress, and I'm like, Montana is so far away from ports. When I was finding out that, majority of it is just shipped out of the state. And they just not that long ago got busted for exporting illegally. So they lost their e-stewardship certification. They Oregon also gave them a fine, their regulators. They got a fine from Washington State, and they got another fine from Washington State for stockpiling the same things that they had already exported illegally for the last 7 years.
But the point is that these companies that we're shipping them to, they're shipping it overseas, right?
No, they're actually shipping it over themselves. They're right there on the port. They have them all in a shipping container. They're the ones that are shipping it.
Oh.
They're like the last end of the chain before it goes overseas.
Oh.
Now, all these businesses and the state of Washington know what they've been charged with. They've also committed fraud. They've also their own paperwork. They've lied about that, and they still get the bid because they bid the lowest. So as a business, I'm looking at, wow. So I want to do the right thing. I give it to this company, and they have been proven not to do the right thing because they get the lowest bid. Where is my values and my morals about sustainability?
And you found it. You found a way to do it all domestically and still be able to make a profit.
Yeah.
And, it might not be as much of a profit, but I think that if enough people had scruples and morals, there would be the people that are supporting you, and you let them know you're supporting something that's clean and good and not just going to destroy a bunch of people's entire habitat in another country. Yeah. That hopefully will in turn build on your sustainable business.
Yeah. Because when I started Oreo's Refining, it was I had to do better than what these corporations were doing. And so, there's a huge amount of, when you're dismantling, there's a huge amount of stuff that can be recycled locally. So why aren't I using that? So I use a local business who is homegrown, who's not a corporation, to take my recycling to. Then pretty much everything that I get can be recycled locally. There's just a few things that can't. And when people ask me, well, what do you do with the plastic? But before they ask me that, they're all excited about what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Then they ask me, well, what do you do with the plastic? And then when I tell them, You just see the look on their faces. They're like, oh my God, that is horrific. That is horrible. How could you?
You're not 100% sustainable.
The plastic goes to the landfill. And here's the reason why. It is full of fire retardant. There is over 175 different chemicals. We do not have a way to recycle that.
Yeah.
And if we take that plastic and put it into waste to energy, we're burning it, and we don't know what is in it because manufacturers do not have to release that information.
Yeah, it's just, you just have to be a 1 through 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it has fire retardant in it, it becomes unrecyclable.
Yeah. 7, the anonymous label. Like, this is everything else.
So what ends up happening is, so I have to make a decision. And this is where my values and my morals come in on sustainability is, so if a company, I could send it to some company here in the U.S. I'm not really going to know what they're going to do with it. Chances are they're going to just dump it on somebody else in another country. That's not okay. Not okay. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to give it to a company in the U.S. who's doing waste to energy. This material is not safe to burn. Mm-hmm. It is not safe. So the safest place for it, and at the beginning of when I had to make this decision, I felt really guilty. I felt really, really guilty. And I didn't want to say it when people asked me, but I'm over that now. And I have no problem saying it. It goes to the landfill. And not just any landfill. Where we live here in Montana, there are some landfills that it is not safe to put it in. But the landfill that we have here is safe. It is the safest place for me, for your family, and the rest of the families in the world.
Well, in sustainable business, sustainability period is a progressive model. You have to, it's not about starting at 100%. It's about starting and then figuring out where you're at and figuring out where you can make the most sustainable changes. And then as you start to progress and as you're able to create profit, instead of saying, I made $1, I'm going to spend 20 cents of that on my overhead and the rest of it, I'm going to go buy a boat.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of that, going, hey, we allocate an extra 10 cents out of that dollar toward sustainability as being literally overhead. Yeah. And we're going to make changes so that we're 10% sustainable, then we're 20%, then we're 50%, then we're 70%, and just have it grow with you.
And I think it's a lot easier for a business starting out to move into being sustainable, move into zero waste in a business that is already existing. Because after I did all the materials that I work with, all of the metals that I work with, there's only one part of that is not sustainable, is the plastic. So if you look at zero waste as not being 100%, but being 90%, diverting 90% of what you have that you get from the landfill, I am at zero waste. The only thing that goes there is the plastic. Everything else is recycled.
Well, and also, net sustainability too. Mm-hmm. The e-waste that you are having refined here in the U.S. is diverting some of the stuff that would go overseas and be burnt and destroy. I mean, you showed me those videos of the people in China who are getting all these computer electronics and stuff, and they've never even seen one turned on. Yet they're taking these things and they're putting them in acid, they're burning them, they're breathing in these chemicals. People are coming up with sores, they're dying, cancers, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. And it's like, the environmental and social justice that you're helping with just by diverting that, if you're 90% sustainable, that 10%, I would say, is probably made up by some of the people that aren't dying from cancer from burning that stuff that you have.
Yeah. One of, I checked it again this morning. Chernobyl used to be the top #1 list of the most toxic place on earth to live. I think it was around 2003. I don't know if anyone paid attention that dropped to #2. A village in Ghana in Africa became #1. and that was because of our e-waste.
What countries have you found that take all the e-waste?
That get dumped on?
Yeah, it's like China, Ghana.
Oh,
Just maybe some of them off
India,
the top of your head.
Vietnam, Malaysia. They're starting now in the Caribbean, all different parts of Asia. I mean, it is horrific. With China now putting regulations on what's coming into the country being exported, has got the recycling industry all up in arms because China said, we're not going to be your dumping ground anymore. So what's happened with that is recyclers are now looking for other places, other small islands, other small communities to dump it on. And some parts of the industry are changing. They're actually changing their infrastructure to, process stuff better. But the reality is that we produce so much, and it's about the dollar. It's about making a buck.
Well, it's old business.
Yeah.
In old business, all you had to do was find a way to do something really efficient, not care about what you're harming or who you're hurting in the process, just to make a buck.
Yeah.
New business is, how do you do it efficiently so that you're not hurting anyone or the environment? And I think that in the future, if you're a company that's shipping it over to China and you're doing all these terrible things, you can't survive because people will find out about it and not support you.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is actually taking part in the new business, the new differentiator, which is sustainability. Do you think this is something that if it caught on could fix it, or where do you see the industry going?
I think it's going to take people to make manufacturers change.
The consumer.
Yeah, it's going to take the consumer to do this. And people are going to need to get mad and stop it. In Europe, Apple a few years ago was just afraid of a boycott. Wasn't that it was going to happen? They were just, the fear of it got them to change benzene where it was in their assembly line of making their phones. Just the fear of that. We can't, the plastic that comes off of computers with the fire retardant have up to 175 different chemicals. If we don't know what's in there, we can't recycle it. Manufacturers refuse to give that information out. There's another problem.
But one that would voluntarily give it up would be considered...
Yeah, we can figure out what to really do with it.
Yeah.
How to process it.
Would be considered transparent. That's what
Yeah.
that's what I was looking for. Like,
Yeah.
what's that word?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is that some of these, corporations will put these things out saying, "Hey, this is what we're doing," and the reality is they're not doing any of that. They're just greenwashing. There is this organization, Washington State based, called BAN, Basel Action Network. They're kind of the watchdog group, and about a year and a half or so ago, they put out these little trackers, and they went all over the country, and they dropped off e-waste at all these places. Some were just R2 certified, some were e-stewardship certified, some had no certification, and then they just watched where they went. Well, now that data has come back. They're calling out the businesses that have been caught exporting, and these businesses are really pissed.
Well, of course they are.
And they're saying, "Oh, this isn't fair. You're just trying to get us to, do the e-stewardship." And it's like, no, you got caught red-handed. And this is a part of being responsible.
That's the point of a third-party certification. So the only way to really have an effective third-party cert is to be transparent and to do the right thing based on what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But there are some out there, I'm saying that there's fewer than most, but I think that there's some out there that are just saw that there was money in it and they're doing it.
Yeah.
So it's not just something you can do and just go, oh, look, it's got a pretty little logo that's got a tree on it. That means it's good for the trees. You really have to look them up and research and review these companies and find out, are they really doing what they say they're doing?
Yeah. If most of all their websites say, oh no, we don't export. And or they'll come back with, well, we are in compliance with R2 certification. Well, yeah, I bet you are, because R2 certification allows you to export. So yeah, you would be at that point, but where you're exporting to, it is illegal.
And I mean, I understand from a business perspective, if you contract through a company that says, you know, we're going to help you become sustainable, and then you go, okay, you're the best in the industry, but then all of a sudden someone does a research study where they track all the stuff that you're shipping off, and all of a sudden you find out that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. You look bad as a company, but then the hope is that, like I said, sustainability is a progressive model. That company, that third-party certification goes out, goes the wayside, or changes. Then there's somebody else that comes in and goes, we've got a better one. And then they're under the microscope, and then hopefully just as we progress through these things, they get better and better and better before you can actually trust some of these.
Yeah. And people have asked me, are you going to be R2 certified? Are you going to be e-stewardship certified? And my response to that is no. For my research, in reality, it doesn't matter if I am R2 or if I'm e-stewardship. There's really absolutely no guarantee. But what I can say is that because of my values and my morals that I've chosen to live by, those have to be an extension of my business. So if you want to know what my business is doing and what it's about, or what I'm not doing with my business, come sit and talk with me. You will find out really quickly, and you will want to give me your e-waste.
Supply chain management would really curb a lot of that, and you have the ability to do that. You could tell everyone where you're getting stuff from, how you're getting it to where you're going, and where you're shipping it to, and what you're doing with what's left over. I mean, you've got supply chain management down.
Yeah, and the fact is that I'm using local businesses. It's like, why not? Why put more trucks on the road? Why do that when I have a local business that takes this stuff and gives me some money for it? And they're going to ship out anyway.
So, what do you mean they're going to ship out?
Well, they have their steel, they have their copper, they already have their infrastructure set up where they ship it to, who comes and gets it. And
the finished material.
Yeah. Okay. So why should I add more trucks on the road?
Yeah.
When I can just use them. And that again is where, okay, which is more important to me, profit or the environment? Now, I'm going to spend a lot of money trying to ship some of this stuff out to another place that's going to give me maybe a little bit more money, but I'm going to lose a lot of costs on freight. So, and if I did that, I wouldn't be supporting local business, which to me is really important. And so, I mean, having to make those determinations in a sustainable business, is it all about profit?
And the more that you support local business, the more they can grow with you.
Yes.
In order to support the amount of supply that you've got pushing through them.
And I'll get a better price for it in the end.
And you build relationships.
Yes. Because if we just remember, if we put the environment and people first, profit will come.
Yes.
People will see that.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important for, because, you know, we have this huge conflict of, you know, if you're sustainable, you're not going to be profitable. Well, we've already proven that to be not true. It's just a bunch of people that are not on board with that because they want to have their 15 jets.
Also, though, there's a group of people that I've met that almost feel like, well, if I make a profit off of sustainable business, I feel bad. And to me, one of my biggest goals is to change that in the industry. So when I go out and I hear somebody go, oh, we're not in it for the money, a lot of times I say, well, you should be focused on making money, but it's what you do with it. money's a tool. It's just like a hammer. You can have a hammer, you can build a home, or you can tear down a home with a hammer. It's the same with money. If you have money, you can either buy yourself 15 jets, or you can turn around and you can use that to do like what you do with some of your profits. You give it to the local food bank.
Yeah.
And you're giving back. But to me, I'm like, if you want to have a sustainable business, the things that you're doing have to be marketed.
Yeah.
You have to be able to go out there and not, and a lot of people are like, oh, sustainable business, I don't want to brag about the good things that I'm doing, because then it's not as justified for some reason. And I go, no, the point of marketing these things that you're doing that are good for the environment and society are to go out and show people, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. Do you want to support this? And they go, you know what? Yeah, I want to support you. And then they support you by giving you their money or their electronics. And then you go back out there and you do it again. And before you know it, you're in this mutually beneficial relationship where if they were to be told, look, you could get rid of all your stuff and make some money off of it, but if you do the research, it's going to go over and kill a bunch of people. They'll go, no, I know Shelly. I know she's doing the right thing. I don't care. Right?
Yeah.
And
that's what I hope for, is that people see that. Factory settings, when we talk about your footprint in the world, the bigger you are, the more destruction you're going to cause.
Yeah.
So in my mind and in my research, staying small, you have a less footprint that you have to worry about. There are some things in the recycling industry that you kind of need that's going to help you increase your profit. And so instead of purchasing those big, huge machineries, we're actually making them ourselves. Like recently made an electric wire stripper out of a treadmill. Right now working on eddy current out of a treadmill. We've already made a magnetic separator out of a treadmill. We don't have to look at things as industrial, as so big. We can still stay small and still make a profit.
If necessary, scale up.
Yeah. But, if I could make these things that are going to be thrown away. I mean, one of the treadmills was actually literally on a truck headed to the dump. And it was diverted to my living room. That treadmill was made into an electric wire stripper.
That thing is so cool. I got to see that thing in action.
And the thing is, it can also be retrofitted for renewable energy. Now, these big industrial things, not so much.
Well, you've got motion. You can always turn motion into energy. So, yeah, you could do that.
So there is, I have these plans. I have these ideas. And that maybe at some point, some other people in small communities can easily start their own e-waste business. They can team up with their local, recycler of metals. And, who doesn't have a treadmill somewhere or know where one's at?
Now, you believe in smaller scale operations versus a large scale operation because those are more sustainable. But do you believe in having, say, if you get it figured out on how to do it at a small scale, to be able to license out a franchise so that someone else doesn't have to go through all the painful learning experiences that you had to go through, that you could just kind of go, if you want to do this, so the local franchise thing, is that something that's possible?
It is. I've been kind of mowing that over. I do have a problem, I think, with people maybe possibly using Oreo's Refining as the name, because I have a very distinct path for my company, and I don't want that to be tarnished. And I think I'm a little bit kind of scared of that, because I've worked really, really hard. I mean, these computers, these electronics aren't light. And I don't get vacations anymore. I work at Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, I work. And because I want my business to be successful, and I want just looking here at Montana where I live, I want Oreo's Refining to be the e-waste place.
Well, and then you also have, I know personally that you have an attachment to obviously the logo because it's your dog on as the main logo. So every time you look at that, you kind of probably go, you know what, I want this business to reflect the purity of that relationship with Oreo. I could see that.
Being a woman in business, being a woman with a disability in business, and then being a woman in a business that is usually more male oriented is extremely difficult to do. And
you're an industrial market.
I'm considered a class 2 recycling facility. I'm so my logo of Oreo is what my relationship with her was like, and what we gave each other was unbelievable. And I learned about compassion and forgiveness and understanding and love from her. And I want that to be a part of my business. That's why working to give back to communities. I work with toxic waste, and so you don't have to. So you don't have to worry about some of these chemicals getting into your food, into your water, where you live. So, I'm doing the work, so you don't have to worry about it.
Well, what if you inspired someone today, one of our listeners today, to start their own e-waste recycling refining program? What could you give to them? First of all, probably tell them don't do it in Missoula. I'm doing it. No.
Yeah, pretty much.
No.
Back it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what kind of advice would you give them in starting this out?
I think one of the very few mistakes that I did make, and I didn't make a lot of mistakes when I first started because I researched and I listened to people who knew more than I did, people in recycling that knew way more than I did on how the business world ran. And so I was able to kind of jump over some of those other hurdles. But there was one thing that, again, because wanting to be sustainable and, I wasn't charging at the beginning. And the reality is you have to charge. And, if, falling into that wanting to do good, you also have to be realistic. The bills also need to be paid. Yeah. And so I think, that was a little difficult. I struggled with making that decision. And then finally, I just had to, and slowly things are getting a little bit better. But I think for anyone starting out, that you got to start out charging. You just have to, because it takes a huge amount of time to process, to get things dismantled and separated out. I mean, I'm really fast. I'm really quick. An average computer, it takes me, less than 5 minutes to have everything done, separated, boom, out. But you're also talking about, transportation, picking up the stuff, those kinds of things. It's time consuming.
Well, and, e-waste recycling has been around for a while. And so that market has been around for a while. But I like to think of ethical e-waste and sustainable e-waste recycling hasn't been around that long. And so you have to focus on making that market more efficient, and it's just not there yet. Yeah. And so you have to adapt it until it's a widespread market, and then people have worked out how it works and made things more efficient to where hopefully one day we don't have to charge people for it. Yeah. And in fact, really, if you think about it, we're taking this and we extracted all these minerals out of the ground and we process them. The mining industry is so efficient that it can chop the top of a mountain off and sort through all these different minerals and stuff and create products that go into our cell phones and into our computers that costs what? Now I think a laptop, you can get a laptop, a really cheap one for like $150.
Yeah.
That whole process, why can't you just take an old computer, melt it, or break it apart, throw it into the mining industry, and just have them sort through it like they sort through mountaintops.
Yeah.
And then just put it back into something else. So it just has to become more efficient. It's not that it's, you're always going to have to charge for it, or you're always going to have to do this. Eventually, if you have the support of the consumer and you have the support locally and people are going, yeah, we're gonna give you our stuff.
Yeah.
Eventually you'll be able to do it without it.
So let me give you some statistics to see how that fits in with that. So in 2016, it was 44.7 million metric tons of e-waste was generated. Okay. Only 20% of that, of the whole world's e-waste, was accounted for in 2016. That means only 8.9 metric tons was accounted for.
What do you mean accounted for?
They know where it went.
Oh. Ooh.
Okay.
That's not good.
So, again, people want to make money, and that is the forefront. That is the number one thing. And so, I'm hoping little companies like mine, that people will start to see that it's not always about the money. The money will come. People will support you. We can make a difference. I know that last year we had over 26,000 pounds of e-waste that we recycled. For a small company, for 7 months, that's a lot. Okay, I know, and I feel good. I sleep good at night knowing that did not go, number one, to the landfill, that did not get exported, that e-waste was not, part of killing another human being. Now, would I love to see all of it? Yeah.
Wait.
But
you're getting there. You just gotta.
Hoping.
Yeah. It just takes time, and the amount of work that you put into it, I don't doubt that you'll be there quickly.
Yeah. I think we need conversations about responsibility of our e-waste and what we're doing with it. This is my phone. This is my cell phone. I put ownership over this cell phone until it doesn't serve me anymore. And then it's not mine. And so I don't think that I have responsibility of what happens to it then because I got a new one. E-waste, just like climate change, is a moral issue. Out of sight, out of mind. So I'm going to go to a recycler and I'm going to give them or pay them to take my cell phone and have it recycled. I've done my job. I'm done. That's it. That's all I need to do. I feel good. I recycled my cell phone. Okay, so then a year later, because you put all these little stickers on it, or you put your initials or something's on there identifying, and you see in a documentary in a poor, horrible environment of burnt e-waste. Oh my God, is that my cell phone? And you believe that your recycler that you gave it to, or even paid to recycle it, didn't really recycle it. So where is the responsibility to check out these businesses? Because here's a way to know if that company is doing the right thing. When you call them up, you say, hey, where are you sending this stuff?
That's a simple question.
Number one, if they're going to haw and hum about it and not straight out tell you, you got a problem. Chances are they're doing something wrong. They're doing something bad. If they can't tell you, and I've had some companies say, oh, we can't give that information out. And I'm like, whoa.
That's good enough for me.
That tells me you're doing something illegal.
Yeah, like I'm not going to give it to you.
Yeah.
Because if you have something to hide, obviously it's not good.
Yeah. If you can't be honest on where it goes, then there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And to continue our responsibility further down the chain than just, I've done my little, I've recycled my aluminum can, so I feel really good about myself now. No, we still are responsible for where it goes.
Well, and so if there's one main message to be taken from all of this, it's that that you have electronics. Everybody has electronics. Probably, obviously, there's going to be listening to this.
We have at least 24 in our home. Each household has at least 24.
Yeah, 24 in your household. You're going to be throwing one of those away this year, somewhere along the lines. Think about where you're going to be putting it. If you're going to be bringing it to your local recycler that you always bring it to, make sure that they're doing it right. And if they're not, tell them, I'm going to go out and I'm going to try and find someone that is doing it right, because you want them to change too. And then go out and try and find someone who is doing it right. If there isn't anyone, obviously do the best that you can. Always do the best that you can. But if you're local here, Missoula, Montana, I think now you kind of know where to go. Not to push it, but I'm pushing it.
I hope so. I think, my business is doing good. It is making a difference, and we do things a little bit differently than some other companies, and I'm just really one day my dream could come true of owning all of the state of Montana's e-waste, and showing people that it can be done properly, that we don't have to export it, and we can give back to our community.
Setting the example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, is setting the example and not doing all the lip service.
Yeah. That's a big part of business, is marketing. A lot of people think that marketing doesn't have to be honest. And that's what they do. They give a lot of lip service. Oh, we're recycling. Quit saying, start doing.
Yeah.
And then tell us what you did. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing. So, Shelly, thanks for being on the show. Is there anything that you want to tell our listeners, or, shout out, do anything like that?
For those that don't already do this, think about how grateful you really are on where you live right now, and that we do have laws that are put in place to protect us from your neighbor taking a bunch of cables and cords and burning them in their backyard. That you could easily be living in the number one toxic place on earth, and to think about those people and how we live our lives. If we value our life, should we not value other people's lives? And when we know, because once you know, you are responsible. So now you cannot say, I did not know my cell phone was toxic. You cannot say now that I did not know that my electronics are considered hazardous waste. You are responsible.
Did you hear that, everybody? You now know. We're putting the work in your lap.
Mm-hmm.
So now, instead of just going to your local recycler, now you have to do it right.
Yeah.
Sorry we made you work a little bit harder, but
Mm-hmm.
it's for the good. You're listening to this podcast for a reason. You believe in sustainability, and you either believe in or are interested in business. So, here it is. This is what you're getting.
And I apologize. Sometimes I could come off really strong because I am very passionate and I very much believe in what I'm saying and what I'm doing. And I'm very much affected about what's happening on our earth and around me. And so sometimes I could come off a little, bitchy. I apologize for that. But the reality is that I care so much. I just my blinders get on, and I get really into what I believe and what I think. So hope I didn't offend anybody.
No, that's one of the parts that I love about sustainability and sustainable business, is that I'm not just going around talking to people that are in business to make a profit. You get some really disgusting people, and you just feel dirty after talking to them and shaking their hand. You're like, you just want to wipe your hands off, go wash yourself. In sustainable business, you get people who care, that still want to make a living doing what they're doing. And so I go around and I meet people who have huge amounts of passion and are going out there and aren't just talking about it. They're not just changing their little 50 by 150, which isn't bad, But these are people who are going, I want to do what's right, but I want to make it standard. I want to not only do what's right for my home, but I want to do what's right for my community and the world.
Yeah.
And I love doing this. I love meeting the people that I meet, and you're one of those people that I've met that definitely have the spunk and the gusto to say what needs to be said. And that's what I love.
And it really is about saving the fucking planet.
Right.
So get on board.
It really is about what?
Saving the fucking planet. That's where you have to put in, okay, there is like adult language. Beep. You need to be careful.
Beep. No.
Yeah.
No beeping. I think that it's good. I'm going to edit out mine probably more than I'm going to edit out hers.
Well, actually, you need to like rearrange mine because I don't really feel good about.
No, too bad.
Yeah.
It's out.
Yeah, don't totally put it on.
I'm not even looking at it. I'm just going to record it.
Oh, you are fucking not? I'm going to kick your ass. That is not going to happen.
Nope, it's not going to happen. All right, I'm going to end it. And...
That concludes our episode for today. As always, thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to like, share, rate, and subscribe. And we'll see you all again next time on Sustainapreneur Podcast, where we are bridging the gap between business and sustainability.